911, what is the address of your emergency?
78. Help!
Aliens about 1 operator 6180. What's the address of your emergency? 1797 Sumter Street. We're being robbed at gunpoint.
No, okay. They're following me to my house. The guns are already out. She's shooting. Okay.
Hello and welcome to Stop the Threat. My name is James Towle. On this week's episode, we take you to the Keystone State of Pennsylvania for a reenactment which we call Park Robber. Thank you all for joining us, everyone. This is going to be a robbing that takes place in a public park. I think in some areas there are specific law enforcement agencies who cover parks. I don't know that that's universal, but their green zones have become a place in cities where we go to have lunch, we go for a walk with maybe, you know, your wife, your children, maybe walk your dog. You would think, and why shouldn't I believe, that while I'm in a public park, that law enforcement's going to take care of me. I think this is one of those places where you don't even give a lot of thought to something that's going to go wrong. It's a public park. I mean, what's going to go wrong here?
You know, if you go back to New York City in the Central Park days, I mean, they weren't called Central Park muggers for nothing.
Yeah, good point.
You know, I mean, you had tons of crime there, and if you take an area that's that big inside a city, how do you even police it? Sure, you have cops there, but it would take, you know, 1,000 cops just to police Central Park.
Well, I mean, look at the gang problems in the park areas in Greater LA, the Boyle Heights area, and you've got an overrun of crime that happens in the public parks because it's open territory.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point, because there have even been parks in Los Angeles that they closed and paved over because they couldn't control the crime that took place there.
It's true.
So I don't know. I was just thinking that of the number of the cities that I've gone to and even outside the country, public parks should be a safe zone. I don't know why that. I just feel like that should be policed heavier than a lot of other places, but I guess that's another discussion. Also, what takes place here is the robbery takes place with what the FBI is terming a non-powder gun. And they are saying that 3.2 million non-powder guns are sold in the United States a year. And there's a lot of laws surrounding toy guns, non-powder guns. Some states are pretty resistant to the idea of selling those. Anybody have any information there?
It's not so much selling them, but once you commit a crime with a facsimile firearm, in many jurisdictions, it's the same as if you had a firearm.
And
if you purport a firearm,
sure,
even if it's a toy gun.
And I think they're doing a better job nowadays regulating some of these toy guns and the airsoft pistols, making them have an orange cap at the end, making it a little bit easier to distinguish them.
I think it's also worth noting that there are some states that felons are not allowed to own toy guns. See, I didn't know that until I looked this up. Yeah. Did you know that?
No, I've never heard
I didn't know that either.
I didn't at all.
In Houston, they say that there's, on the average, 2 robberies a month with a toy gun. I want to advise you now that if you're the bad guy in Houston, that may not be the right place to do it. We all have guns, and they're mostly real here. So I wouldn't advise continuing that, but maybe that's the reason why there's only 2. Arriving police officers, a gun is a gun is a gun. If it's dark, it's got a hole in it, and it's pointing at you, you look at it as a
real firearm. Yep,
absolutely.
Right. Okay. Even if you're a good, legal, law-abiding citizen and a facsimile is pointed at you, it's a real gun. We come back, I'm going to show you part 1 of Park Robber. Don't go away. Thanks for coming back, viewers. On today's reenactment, a bad guy is going to use a toy gun in the commission of a crime. Let's watch part 1, Park Robber.
Give me all you got. Give me all you got.
Okay.
All right. Now turn around and run. Run! Hey, if you turn back, I'll shoot you.
that bring us to?
That brings us to 6 cell phones and 2 wallets. Not a bad day.
Oh man, I can't believe people fall for that stupid old pellet gun.
Yeah, I know, but look at it. No one wants to mess with it. Check this out, guy. Oh yeah, this is about to be easy.
Hey, give it up. Give me all you got.
Okay, you know, that guy's not doing anything wrong. He's in a public park, right? Obviously, the bad guys have been doing this maybe several times. I'm surprised that someone hasn't called. I mean, we already know that at least one lady was robbed. I hope that she went off and called 911, and they're setting up some kind of a task force to go down there and figure out what's wrong here. But I don't know that the individual himself has done anything wrong. In our research, however, surprisingly enough, maybe not surprisingly to you, that there are some parks who have signs that say no guns allowed. Now, if you come to a park that has a sign that says no guns allowed, what are you going to do?
Probably not patronize that park.
Yeah.
You know, and it isn't just for me, but if I'm in a situation like that and Wes is walking on another path and sees this, I hope that he's armed and he can help me.
Yeah. Now, that's a good point. That's a good point. I like that one. I like that.
I couldn't agree more. You know,
At this point, he's done nothing wrong.
Oh, he absolutely.
Okay, the guy's
has done
out,
nothing.
you know, maybe he's between lunch or something, or lunch, and he's out taking a little walk in the park. Hey, that's fine. It's what the park's there for.
But in regards to your question about what would you do, you know, that's your decision to make. If it's a non-permissive environment, are you going to or not? I mean, I can't make that decision for you. I know what I would do, but.
Okay, Wes, you're going to lunch, and you know you're going to go to the park, and because it's something you do, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, aware that something might happen, would you ask someone to go with you? Hey, let's go together. I mean, do we need to be that cautious when we go to a public park?
You wouldn't think so. And realistically, probably not. If you've made that decision, you're going to go walk through the park, you're not going to ask for people to go hold your hand and walk through the park with you. I don't know. It's a strange set of circumstances. You know, it's a public location, and you know they just said, you know, how many wallets and how many cell phones. That there isn't a marked unit up there pulling these kids out of this park by now.
Right, right. So, what could we advise someone going to the park then? Let's give them some advice. Okay, you go to the park 2 or 3 times a week, and you have been going alone. I mean, people go to the parks, and I have to admit myself, I have gone to a park and rolled a seat back and took a nap. So, I mean, people go to the park, and I don't know, I think they should feel safe doing that. If they can't carry a weapon, maybe the weapon is the word here. Maybe spray. You know, said no guns allowed. That didn't mean that you couldn't take something else, I think.
Yeah, I think you're probably looking at that. I mean, that would be really nitpicking to draw that down. But I mean, from an advice perspective, you know, he looks like he's out in the open, but I think stick to the obvious paths. You know, a lot of parks have got some kind of secluded locations. I mean, these are natural locations for something like this to take place. Try and stay out in the open, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of other people that are in the park.
Right. Yeah, I like that. We've had some of these park things before, and the advice there has always been stick to the path. You know, stay with the group. All right. If you're jogging and you see that quite a bit, they're jogging. Stay with the group. Don't go branching off in there because you feel like. I think those days are over. I mean, I hate to say that. I mean, what a terrible thing to have to admit to. But I'm not sure in the country, in the way it is and the way things are going, that you can afford to take those risks anymore, and that you need to be armed, or like you said, if the park has a sign that says no guns, hey, go to another park. Or I don't, you know, I guess it would depend upon you personally.
Well, that's why I said that's a decision that you have to make, that nobody else can make for you.
Right, right. I'm not sure I'm going to put myself in a location where I am going to be prey, okay? And when we come back, we'll see what happens in part 2. Don't go away. Thanks for coming back, viewers. We've seen what takes place in a public park. We've tried to give some advice to those folks who use a public park more than others. And you should be able to use a public park, and you should be able to feel safe there. But I think it's your responsibility to make sure that you're safe there. I think we can probably all agree upon that quite quickly. But let's see what takes place in part 2.
Check out the soul guy. Oh yeah. This is about to be easy.
Hey, give it up. Give it all you got. Give me all you got.
Okay, well, you know, you got to give credit to the fella. I mean, he took care of himself rather quickly. It looks like it was a shot to the head. And it was a shot to the head, okay. So let me ask you this, because it was kind of jumped out at me, and there was a lot of controversy surrounding the reports as well. He walked away. Now, we saw him leave his cell phone and all that in the car, which was number one, first mistake, but for some reason or other he chose to do that. So, okay, this takes place. Now, what do? Do you walk away? Or do you stay there and signal somebody to call 911? I mean, I don't know. I felt uncomfortable walking away. I mean, even though it's a toy gun, and I'm not sure he knew that, but maybe he did because he reacted quickly.
It looked like the guy was down, and I think in that situation, it didn't look like anyone else was around. I think you'd almost have to go and get your cell phone and be able to call 911 if no one else is around.
I think initially even rendering some kind of aid, calling 911, getting somebody there, and you just participated in an event that is going to have some issues. You
know, that's really a good point. So because every once in a while I see a legal side to this. Because you did not try to render aid, would that work against you, or would it work for you if you tried to render aid and then left?
My initial impression was that, oh no, this guy's not leaving the scene. He's not going to just, that's it.
Right, I was uncomfortable with that.
But, you know, if his car's a short distance away and he's going to get the phone, tells him where he is, told him what happened, I guess. I mean, what other choice he has? As far as flagging anybody down when you got a guy laying on the ground there, a lot of people are going to go, I don't want to get involved in this.
And that's true, too. Yeah, even if you started hollering, I need help, you know, I just shot somebody, I mean, I don't know that people are going to actually rush to your aid.
And if you do say that, I just shot somebody, those cops that are coming think you just shot this guy for no good reason.
Yeah, there's no evidence otherwise.
And you put yourself in a situation where you might get shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess the lesser of all evils here is to get as quickly to that phone and call and give them the best story you can. Describe the crime, describe yourself, and tell them what happened, and make sure you tell them you're the victim. He's the perp.
Okay, you walked away. Let's just look at this another way. You walked away, the body's on the ground. You were pretty sure when you swept around there and knocked the toy gun away and shot him that it was not a toy gun. Let's assume that the guy knew that, although we don't know that for sure. Now he's down, the bad guy's on the ground, there's a gun laying there, and you walk away. Is there something wrong with that? I mean, would you have tried to secure the weapon? Would you have kicked it away? I mean, you're walking away now. So there's now in your mind and in the minds of many a real gun there. What's the best way to handle that, Wes?
You know, not knowing where he is in relationship to his car. I mean, the way the video played out, it looks like he just kind of like looks both ways and kind of casually walks off camera. If he's headed towards his vehicle, there's a no right, no wrong about leaving the weapon in place, assuming that this guy doesn't have the capability of picking it up again, running, getting the phone and coming back, or securing that weapon and then coming back with the phone.
Yeah, I'm thinking that somebody's going to come by. Here's a body laying here. And
well, his partner may come back. He just ran off. Maybe
well, yeah, that's right. There was a partner.
He builds up his nerves running away, and he goes, screw it, I'm going to go back.
Nobody's going to shoot the partner, yes or no? He's running away.
In this scenario?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No.
And that's because?
No legal justification. He
Unarmed.
wasn't a threat.
And I mean, you see no indication of a weapon, no nothing, and he's retreating. No, I mean, I like the fact that he held the gun on the guy, and he made sure until that guy hightailed it out of there, but...
You wouldn't have squeezed off around.
No.
When
Definitely not.
we come back, we're going to continue with this a little bit, and then I've got some emails for you. Don't go away. Welcome back, viewers. This is a really very important part of what takes place if this were to take place, and that would be the follow-up 911 call. And actually, Duncan said, go.
Well, I think it's important that you're the first guy to call, that you describe what happened, you make it clear that you're the victim of an armed robbery, and you have shot, you engaged in a shooting. I need an ambulance here for the perp, and describe yourself and all, and any other information that you can give, and do that as quick as you can, because the alternative to that is the other guy's buddy. He makes the call. Hey, my friend just got shot. Was playing with his toy gun in the park, and some guy came up and shot him in the head.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's actually pretty good, because now you're rolling into this scene, and you now have two conflicting reports, don't you?
Right.
How are you going to react? Go.
You have to treat this guy as an armed suspect. There's no other way to do it.
Yeah, until you have the facts, and that's where you need some compliance on people's parts to work with you. You have to treat them in a certain way. Well, I think really short into this scene, though, the hood, the knapsack full of cell phones and wallets are going to be a dead giveaway that this is going another direction. Yeah. But that initial response, and again, kind of having been on the receiving end of that once in my life, you want to make sure people know who people are when those situations play out.
Yeah. And identify yourself as the good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that leads to another question. I know we're not going to have time to finish it, but let me just ask you this, because I know a lot of folks out there are going to ask me. When the officer does arrive, is he concerned about my rights? Well, that's a tough question. Are you concerned about the rights of the shooter? Or are you interested in solving the crime, getting the report written, get somebody in the back seat and go home?
Initially, your concern is containment and managing the scene, and then once you develop those facts, you don't know whose rights come into play until you actually have those facts.
Okay, now you've established the bad guy's down. The good guy shot him.
Absolutely, you're concerned about this at this point.
Okay, at that point, the good guy is starting to make way too much conversation. I think everybody knows that's what's going to happen. He's saying way more than he should be saying. Are you at some point in there going to say to him, you've said enough?
Probably
or you
not.
Just let him go and you write everything down he says?
But you're not necessarily writing everything down.
Well,
but because it's not just this situation, but additional situations, it's advantageous to let people talk. And again, it depends on the officer that shows up on the scene. But I mean, people are going to be in a traumatic situation. There's going to be a tendency to vent when that situation's over with.
Right.
And some of it may be irrelevant information at this point.
But knowing that you may end up in court, there's a good chance you will be.
Well, taking the side of the shooter, Miranda doesn't kick in unless you have custody, and any spontaneous utterances or anything he says, if he wants to talk, I didn't initiate anything. If you want to talk, in any crime, if you're looking at him as a suspect in a crime, you let him talk.
Okay, all right. So there's no point in there where he said, you've said enough. Okay,
so that would be totally up to you if you were that kind of guy that wanted to do that, and all. But Wes hit the nail on the head too. Once you see the pocketbooks, all the other stuff, and then
Yeah.
this guy's he's probably didn't just graduate charm school, so he's probably got a sheet already, and you start to put things together. But to answer the question about the initial guy getting there, you're concerned about your safety.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's probably not the popular thing to say, but my number one priority when I show up is my safety.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the containment of the scene, getting everything under control, and then bringing those facts in.
Let me just get the follow-up in here before we run out of time. Hey, the bad guy died. I don't think there's any surprise there. He was shot in the head, okay? However, the shooter, the victim, the hero, the good guy, did go to the hospital with chest pains. And that may not be a surprise because that's a pretty...
Traumatic.
Yeah, right, okay. And the second guy, may not be a surprise either, was never caught. A pellet gun found at the scene, and the good guy did have a CCW license. So that's all we have on that at this point. I think a good point was brought out, and we just don't have enough time to cover it all. Thank you very much. I know there's going to be a lot of conversation. Get a hold of me on the social media. Thank you much for tuning in this week. We all enjoyed having you here. See you again next week. Be safe, be trained, be alert.